A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 14. I'm Ritwika Gupta. Now, India's real estate sector is evolving from a traditionally volatile industry into a long-term economic growth engine. This is, of course, driven by rising aspirations, urban expansion, and changing consumer behavior. Tonight on the show, we will be decoding where the next phase of opportunity is coming from, in a conversation with Abhinandan Lodha, Chairman the House of Abhinandan Lodha. Abhinandan, a pleasure to have you today on Leaders of Tomorrow. Thank you so much for taking the time and speaking to us today.
Thank you, Ritwika. Thank you for having me.
So I want to begin this on a broader note. The real estate sector has seen significant growth over the last couple of years. What, according to you, has structurally changed about the industry, over the last 5 to 7 years or so?
So there are two parts to that answer, Ritwika. I think there was a period from 2012 to 2020 when real estate was almost flat for 7-8 years. So there was a lot of catch-up which was supposed to happen from there. I think the Indian economic story has been extremely strong. If you see the last 5 years, the way the country has grown.
Right.
There's also an impact of how the stock market has behaved. Most importantly, I think COVID brought about a fundamental change the way people were thinking. And the desire to consume in today became far more prevalent post-COVID than it was earlier. So I think a combination of all of these and the availability of home loans at affordable rates, supply of good quality real estate, all combined put together, and the general understanding that wealth and real estate are very closely interlinked. I think all of that has come together to create the kind of demand we've seen in the last 5 to 7 years.
Right. Do you think the perception has changed? Because, for a long time, the real estate industry was looked at as a cyclical, volatile industry. Do you think today it is finally being viewed as a long-term economic growth engine?
Oh, absolutely. I think globally, if you see anywhere, any country which has done reasonably well on the economic cycle, real estate has played an essential part in the economic value creation boom. And I think there's a lot of grey areas attached to Indian real estate till some time ago. But over the last 10 years, the strong government at the center and the policies across the country has now enabled people to execute real estate in a certain way. I think RERA, for example, has taken away a lot of the elements which otherwise people are worried about. So that has brought in a lot of formality to the sector from a developer's perspective, which has then enabled the sector now to be viewed as a long-term economic value creator rather than a cyclical industry run by individuals. It's now become an institutionalized industry.
So let's talk about the house of Abhinandan Lodha. Now, it has built a very strong identity in the premium land ownership space. Tell me, when you were starting out, what was the gap that you saw in the market that perhaps traditional real estate players, perhaps overlooked?
So two things, Ritwika. I think, I've always seen the last 20-25 years of my understanding of real estate, the kind of value you can create by just owning land. I've seen land in Thane trade at 2 crore rupees per acre in 2003. And the same land today probably is not available at 250 crore rupees per acre. And what I then realized over time is that everybody has similar stories of how either the family sold a very valuable piece of land and they wish they would have retained it,
right,
or that how the family did not buy a piece of land at a very affordable price, which has now become unaffordable. I also largely understood the reason why the modern Indian has stopped participating in land is coming from the issues around title, possession, liquidity, and approvals. So inherently, Indians want to buy land. There's a need, there's a love for land. They understand the value land can create. But the current Indian is time poor, and hence he does not going to get embroiled in these 4 issues.
Right.
If you take these away, then the desire to buy land, participate in land, and look at land as a wealth creation mechanism is extremely high, and which is exactly what House of Abhinandan was out to do. And if you see the last 4 years of our journey, and I think we've seen again and again and again that every time you bring land in a location where people believe economic growth is going to come, the desire to participate from a 20-year plus perspective is extremely high.
Well, I heard that you haven't met a single customer of yours. Is that right? That's a very rare phenomenon in the real estate industry, right?
I think it's probably one of its only kind across Asia. And it again came from the desire to build scale. So if you look at the traditional way in which land was sold, because nobody was participating in land as a wealth tool, they were only looking at land as a consumption tool, which means you would only buy land in and around where you stayed, or at best the city where you traveled to very often. Our idea was that any Indian living in San Diego, if he understands that Nagpur is a great growth engine, he should be able to buy it. And an Indian living in Maharashtra should be able to participate in Vrindavan if he believes there's wealth there. Right. And the only way to do it was to take away the physicality of the business. You build a strong brand, you make very, very clear, transparent, upfront commitments. You be willing to hold yourself to standards which are not seen in the industry before. And then you be very, the only way to build scale is to let everybody come online and participate. That's what we sought to do. We had the choice of scaling up over time based on the success we saw. We were able to scale up very, very fast because people took to the idea extremely quickly.
Right. Now your business model also relies a lot on aspiration, second home buying, lifestyle-led ownership. Tell me, what does that tell us about India's consumption pattern and what young India is looking at, in terms of wealth, in terms of assets, how they are perceiving these things?
So I think one thing, Ritwika, young India is very, very brave. They are willing to experiment with newer and newer asset classes. And they also have a very global view and a global image of how wealth is created, which is why you'll see a lot more participation in assets which, if you look at the way equity funds have grown over the last 5, 7, 8 years, it's a reflection of how the Indian mindset is changing. And I think what it's really telling us is that the young Indian is having high disposable income, is willing to invest, can take a thought-through financial call, and has the desire to own long-term wealth rather than short-term gain. And I think that's largely what is playing out across all sectors today.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Abhinandan, I read that you're also expanding into markets like you mentioned, Nagpur and Vrindavan. Tell me, how investment worthy are these smaller markets, and where do you see the next wave of growth coming from?
So Ayodhya was probably a very small town in 2020-21. And the annual GDP of Ayodhya would not even be 0.1% of UP's GDP then.
Right.
In 2029, it's projected to cross 3%, which basically means UP's GDP is probably doubled over the last 10 years. And this place is going from 0.1 to 3%. So what I'm really trying to tell you is that there is humongous amount of wealth in India today, which is in rising Indian cities, places like Vrindavan, Nagpur, Ayodhya, etc. And these places also now, because of the technology, the ability to participate across the world from where you're sitting, is seeing a lot of homegrown talent actually stay back. Right. You're no longer seeing mass migration from these places to only the 4 or 5 metros which India was already spoken about. So my personal sense is, if you look at where real estate wealth is going to get created and multiplied, it's probably going to be far more in rising India than in established locations. Right. To give you an example, in a place like Vrindavan, land prices have probably tripled in the last 5 years. And still the quality of supply is very, very limited. There is very large local consumption-led demand. The same probably applies to a place like Amritsar. And I can go on and on about these examples. But in general, what I'm trying to tell you is that the benefit of technology, the ability for Indians to work from wherever they are situated, not just work from metros, wealth creation across the board, and desire to own assets which are global in nature, even in places which are not necessarily super urban, is riding the value creation in all of rising India, and will continue to be very, very large.
So I want to talk a little bit about technology in real estate. You mentioned technology as well quite a number of times. We are hearing about prop techs coming up. You're hearing about how one can buy a piece of land in 15 minutes over quick commerce. I want to know, what is your take on this, and how is technology really impacting the real estate market, on ground?
I think it's impacting in a huge way, both on the demand and the supply side. And I'll give you an example of that. So we recently launched one of our developments in Naigaon. Naigaon is a suburb of Mumbai. Yeah. And this is an affordable housing development. Typically apartments, average ticket size between 40 and 60 lakhs. And you would expect that when launching a development like that, most people would imagine there'll be a site office. Yeah. There'll be a sample flat. Yeah. And maybe to sell 100 apartments, you'll have 1,000 families coming through. Sure. All right, Ritwika, we did a launch where we built no site office, no sample flat. The entire launch was done without a single human being from our side. The entire launch was done on using AI technology. Yeah. We built Priya internally, and we had close to 46,000 consumer conversations. So you keep learning as you move along. We got 8,800 applications from 1,400 apartments. We sold out in less than 3 weeks' time.
Wow.
Most importantly, we launched during Shraddh, which typically is not a great time to launch.
Yeah.
We did all our allocations on the day there was a red alert in Mumbai because of rains. Typically, none of this would happen. But suddenly, because of the use of technology, you're able to take away Saturday, Sunday. You're able to take away morning, afternoon, evening. You're able to take away all of these barriers which come in the way of real estate sales.
Right.
And you also save a lot of money which you can actually give back to the buyer.
Yeah.
Similarly, on the supply side, there is a lot more happening. There is steel structures which have now come into play. There is precast. And you'll see building cycles get much, much shorter as compared to earlier. So I think technology is going to play a very pivotal role in Indian real estate. And I would say over the next 10 years, what we see as normal today will completely change.
Abhinandan, before the interview, I was telling you how our show is watched by a lot of MSMEs, startup founders, small business owners. Now, MSMEs are deeply linked to India's real estate sector as well, be it construction, interiors, logistics. I want to understand from you, how important do you think is the health of India's MSME ecosystem to sustain, the market's growth overall?
Oh, extremely important. I think especially for real estate because, I think we are very closely connected to more than 200 industries. A lot of the suppliers and a lot of the people who participate in our value creation cycle are MSMEs, and they do a lot of the heavy work for us. They create the supply chain, they are able to bring material to the play, and they are able to help us regulate our own credit cycles, etc. So I think the MSME plays a very important role in Indian real estate. Government has taken some fantastic steps to look at it, but also from our side, I think as an industry, we should get far more committed to making sure that we are playing a role in whatever manner possible in their growth, because you can't continue to grow in this economic cycle if the MSME sector doesn't remain very, very strong.
Right. Now, India's real estate sector, it contributes to about 7.3% of India's overall GDP. It significantly contributes to employment generation, urban development. What is your outlook, for the market, in the next maybe 5 to 6 years or so?
So I definitely think the Indian real estate sector will grow much faster than the national GDP. I think there will be areas where the growth will be even faster than that. There will be a lot more job creation happening. A lot more wealth creation happening, because as markets mature, people are able to look at monetizing some of their assets and reinvest them over and over time. I also see AI playing a large role. So the way jobs are getting created today will not be the same way jobs are getting created tomorrow. There will be a change. And I see consumer friendliness increasing substantially, transparency going up. And the 7.3% probably is a direct contribution. The indirect contribution, if we add the allied industries, is probably much, much larger. And as the real estate industry grows, industries, paint, home furnishing, painting, tiles, marble, a lot of these industries will grow alongside. And the faster and stronger the real estate supply chain gets, the better it is for the overall economy.
Right. Abhinandan, as we are speaking, there's a lot happening around the world right now, with macroeconomic uncertainty, a lot of volatility. My question is in two parts. Tell me, how are you responding to this? And secondly, how do you assess the resilience of India's real estate consumption, in this economic uncertainty?
I think we are taking this at this point of time in two pieces, Ritwika. One is that we see it as a great opportunity. Indians have been investing a lot, especially in the Middle East, and it's like a habit to invest money there for safety and long-term returns. I think that money will stop going there or reduce going there and will get reinvested in India. So it's a great opportunity to get capital reallocated to you as a developer. You also need to be very, very careful about the kind of land transactions you're getting into at this stage. You need to be quite clear that the next 3, 6, 9 months, nobody knows how the global markets will play out. So you need to be reasonably conservative in your approach. But if you look at the overall impact on the Indian real estate sector, it's been reasonably low. It also showcases that we are very, very strong domestic demand. A lot of demand is used in actually end use or end wealth creation. It's not speculative in nature. It's not driven by overseas flows. And a combination of this will again tell you that the Indian real estate sector remains extremely resilient, and it will continue to see consumption-led offtake in the near future and forward from there.
That's very optimistic. Wow, fantastic. So tell me, Abhinandan, how do you view sustainability as a company and as an individual as well?
So we are very fortunate that most of our business is related to land, and we are probably far more focused on building sustainable lifestyle and sustainable developments than you could do if you're having city center assets. Most of our developments are spread over 7,500 acres or more, so there's much more that you can do. We probably are as close to a carbon neutral company which is there in Indian real estate as there is today. But more than just that, I think a lot of focus on rainwater harvesting, making sure recycling is proper, making sure you're ensuring that you're working in line with the local synergy. See, we are not focused in one city. So we have to work with the local environment everywhere. And we have to make sure that the local culture, local heritage becomes a part of our development and vice versa. So we work very, very closely with nature. We work very, very closely with local sustainability measures. And we are very, very committed as a company because also the natural extension of what we do. We can't afford to be in any other way.
So it's been 5 years since you established the house of Abhinandan Lodha. Tell me, what is the vision for the next 5 years? Not just in terms of how you see the company growing, but also internally, in terms of how you manage your team. What can you tell us?
So I think we've taken one step in a 100-mile journey. We hope to be at probably mile number 1 in the next 5 years' time. It's a huge headway for what we are doing. We are very, very early in what we are starting to create. As a company, I think we want to be far and much more transparency based, far more technology focused. Our teams have now been with us for a reasonable amount of time. They understand our DNAs are quite well meshed together. And even today we are largely professionally driven.
Yeah.
We can think that's the way we can expand. We are today operating in almost 6 states across the country. We believe the number will double over the next 5 years' time. And the only way to do business across so many states is to build a very, very transparent organization with a huge amount of empowerment, and where all decisions are based on the system. To give you an example, Ritwika, we are probably the only country in this company in the real estate segment today which is privately held, but you can find every single RERA complaint against us on our website. If there is any court filing against us, you'll see that on our website. We believe we owe that answer to our consumer. We want to be transparent. It's not a sector where it's very easy to be transparent. So there are questions which are uncomfortable in nature which you have to answer. Yeah. But if you're really saying you want to be a tech-based company, it can't just be in the marketing or sales experience. It's got to be in every part of the process.
Absolutely.
So I think we're very, very committed to that.
Who do you see as competition in this space, Abhinandan?
The way we are doing business, there's probably nobody else who does business in a similar manner anywhere across Asia that we are aware of. We think on the land side, especially Ritwika, we are very early. I think overall from the real estate pie, land is less than 4%. So, I think there are a lot of more players getting into it. The more and more people get into it, the larger this piece will become. There's enough and more space for everybody to grow. And also makes the segment, we're creating the segment, much more trustworthy and much more popular. So at this point in time, we don't see competition. We don't see that anybody needs to see any competition with each other for the next 10 years' time. There's huge tailwind and huge growth opportunity.
So Abhinandan, you come from a private equity background. Tell me, how did the transition from private equity to real estate, what did that teach you about entrepreneurship, investment, risk-taking perhaps?
So I think the one good thing about private equity, it teaches you long-term value creation, the ability to take short-term pain for long-term gain, and the need to work very, very closely with young talent. So, I think we managed to bring all three into a real estate play. And the mindset it gives you of capital allocation, financial discipline, need to constantly look at financial parameters, ROE, ROC, etc., is not something which you normally see in the real estate background. So I think coming from what we did at Tomorrow Capital, it helped us build very, very strong moorings on financial clarity and also long-term thought processes when we were building our real estate business.
Fantastic. The theme for our show this season is Emerging Businesses, the India Advantage. I'd like to ask you, what do you think truly defines the India Advantage today?
I think we are probably, this generation, this working generation, is probably the luckiest because we've not had such strong economic growth and such clear political stability, I think, ever since our independence. And I think the native Indian intelligence, ambition and desire to grow, coupled with global acceptance today, access to foreign capital, led by very, very strong and stable political leadership. Right. I think if you combine all of this, we've got an advantage which is almost impossible to beat.
So Abhinandan, give us a sense of your other businesses as well, because beyond real estate, because you're into many other things as well. So give us an understanding of how you're managing so many portfolios.
So I think, Ritwika, I think one, we have a private equity firm called Tomorrow Capital that's been with us. We built it homegrown for the last 10 years. It's a reasonably successful practice now. Everything has been grown over the last 10 years' time. So that's one part of what we do. We also probably own India's largest full home only interior design firm. It's called Bonito Designs.
Right.
It's probably re-energized the way Indians look at interior design. It does homes in the range of 10 to 20 lakh rupee budget for designs, but it's built on the back of technology. So for example, we've got a lot of our design specialists are including people like Gauri Khan, etc. Yeah. So we are able to get designer homes to middle class, upper middle class India. That's something more which we enjoy doing. We also are quite invested in the education sector, but that more than a business, we look at as our ability to give back to society. So I think these three, along with our real estate practice, is largely what we are focused on.
Our show is called Leaders of Tomorrow, and I always ask my guests what leadership means to them. How do you define a leader today?
I think the ability to take calibrated risk, back your organization, and get up every time you're put down, get up every time you're pushed down. And that is probably what defines leadership, along with the fact that you need to be very, very accountable and transparent.
Fantastic. And well, finally, before I let you go, tell me what would you like to tell all the entrepreneurs watching our show today, a piece of advice, who perhaps want to enter the real estate industry?
I think we would tell all the entrepreneurs that there's so much for us to learn from the entrepreneurs today. I think today's younger generation is far more intellectually capable and far more ability to take risk as compared to when I was probably growing up. And my only desire would be that's very, very important at an early stage of your career to follow your dreams. When I started HOABL in 2021, it was a dream, something which nobody had done before. But if you're brave enough to follow your dream and back it up with action, then probably you are very lucky to be in India and in the Indian economic space right now.
Fantastic. It was lovely speaking to you, Abhinandan. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Ritwika.
Thank you. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 14. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.